Hey, what's going on, guys? All right, a lot of questions lately about Betaflight rates and what does what and what to do when it's not feeling the way you like it, but you can't figure it out. So I'm gonna go to a screen share here, so check it out, and I'll kind of run through some things with you. I've had a lot of questions lately, so I figured it'd just be easier to make a video than to have to explain it all the time. So here we go. Running configurator 10.4.0, and I'm connecting to my DYS F4 board with Betaflight 3.5 on it. Now, okay, we're going to go to the PID tuning tab. Okay, these are the rates I typically run. 1,000 degrees per second on pitch and roll, 523 on yaw. A lot of people are baffled by that. Now, if I'm going to explain for a second here, I have never gone full stick on yaw with 1,000 degrees per second. So I decided to try to drop it down and make it more linear. And this definitely increased my smoothness in my flying and kept me from getting that jerky motion trying to do yaw spins and whatnot, which I do a lot. So yeah, I typically run about half the speed on my yaw from pitch and roll. Now I'm going to go to a new profile here, profile 2. This is a stock Betaflight profile. They set everything up to 1.0 in the RC rate, which I believe is a little bit too high, 0.7 on the super rate, and 0 expo. Now okay, that gives us 667 across the board. Especially if you're a new pilot, this is a horrible rate profile for you to start out on. It will be way too sensitive in the center for beginners. So if you're just starting out, do not copy Mr. Steele's rates. He runs ridiculously high rates, and rightfully so. He's been flying a long time, so I'm sure he has worked up to those, but I do not recommend them for a new pilot. Okay, I'm going to show you what each of these do now. So what we're going to do is zero out the super rates. And if you look at the graph, you will see that that makes everything a straight line. But now your degrees per second is only 200. So it will be super slow on the end, but very sensitive in the center, which we do not want. Now, typically when I try to find new rates, what I will do is go about, let's say, 0.25 on the expo. We'll work with pitch and roll right now to start. Okay, so that gives a slight curve. Now we'll bring this back to 0.7. Okay. Now we're just going to look at the red line here, which is roll. Now what that does is adds to the top. Basically, you have to look at this curve. Now, if you're looking to just smooth out the center, you cannot just add expo. Expo does more than that. It will also very much mess with this second half of the curve. If you look, say, let's go 0.5, which is pretty damn high. Okay, it did flatten out the center, but if you look at this part of the curve right here, it made it a lot sharper. So now, as you're flying, it will be softer in the center, but that second half of the stick will be a lot more sensitive and will ramp up in speed very quickly. That is the balancing act that you have to do between expo and RC rate. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to drop the RC rate down to, say, 0.7. Okay, now it flattened out the center even more, but what we're going to do is go back to expo and change that back to point 0.3. Okay, so now if you look at it, we still have a flatter center section, but not as fast of a ramp in the middle. So you have to watch that. You can't just add expo if you want to make it less sensitive in the center. You do need to balance it out with RC rate. Okay, so now we're still looking at the red line. We are at 0.7 on the RC rate with 0.30 on the expo. Now I'm going to go back and I'll drop this back down to 0.2. Okay. Now we have a nice gradual curve and it's softer in the center, but that still might be a little bit twitchy in the middle. So I'll go 0.65. This really all comes down to how you feel when you're flying. If, say, typical complaint I get from people is it feels great cruising around, it's nice and smooth, but then when I go to do semi-fast flips and rolls and maneuvers, it's not very controllable. Well, that's because you're not max deflection, but you're not staying in the center either. You're in this area here, which that means that your ramp up here is too sharp. So you do have, at that point, you have to balance it out between RC rate and expo. Okay, so now I'm at 433 degrees per second, and I want my full stick deflection to be much faster than that. Right, we're going to go for right around 1,000 here. So that's when you go to our super rate. Sorry, we're going to change that to 0.8. Okay, now we're at 650, 684. All right, we'll leave it there. Okay, 929. All right, so now if you look, that's pretty good. What I would like to do, let's go back. I'm just gonna reset this. I'm gonna look at my my defaults here, or my rates. Sorry. All right, there we go. All right. So yeah. Okay. So to conclude this, you really do have to balance out your expo and your RC rate. Otherwise, what you're going to find yourself is, oh, it feels good in the center and it feels good at max stick, but the second half of my stick is too sensitive. You need to be comfortable with it the whole way through. Especially when you're doing like pop maneuvers or going around objects where you have to be aggressive, but you're not doing like a full flip or roll. This area here, the second half of the stick, is going to be very important for you to be comfortable with. So if you do like flying smooth, like a freestyle type setup, I would recommend finding a pilot that you do like how they fly, and maybe setting something up. If you can get their rates, great. If you're more than welcome to try mine. I know a lot of people that run a setup like this. Some people run straight numbers all across the board. It's a very personal thing, and you have to find what's comfortable for you. And as you do improve, you will change them. I don't recommend changing them all the time. A lot of your pilot skills will improve when you stick to one thing, but then you will get to the point where like, I wish my max stick on roll was a little bit faster. I keep falling short. So you might want to raise your super rate up a little bit, or you might find say hey, my cruising settings and at minimal stick movement is too sloppy. So you've gotten to the point where you need to raise maybe your RC rate or take away some expo. There's nothing wrong with that, but find something you like and stick with it for a while so you can get used to it. Biggest problem I see is people changing stuff all the time, and then they spend half their time readjusting, whether it be rates or PIDs or even the quad itself. You will be improving the most when you find something you like and you just stick to it, and that way you can focus on just your flying. So I hope this helped someone out there, and check you later. Thanks.